Hey guys, it's Aaron, and I'm back with Dahmer episode 2 today. So, notes, let's dive right in. So in this episode, we see a little bit more of how um, things came to pass towards the end. We actually start with him getting arrested and booked, and he is read his rights, that kind of thing, and he gets naked as they take pictures of him in the booking cell or in the police headquarters. So it's very the way that this is shot is the whole series is kind of back and forth. And so it's just kind of playing catch up, but it's still cool. It's not hard to follow. It's really nice, and it's really they do their work very well, and the finished product fits perfectly. Got church today with me. Ooh, little kitty. So yeah, we that's where we start, and then like I said, that we pretty much go straight to a flashback of him as probably a, I don't know, 7, 8 year old in school, and they're doing um uh show and tell. And well, it's like show and tell, but it's more like bringing the teachers things. You know, like we bring the teachers apples, that kind of thing. And so, little Jeffrey decides to bring his teacher some tadpoles that he finds in the um, local creek. And so unusual, but I mean, he is still being thoughtful. It's for him, it's a good gift. And so she, of course, she's very nice. She's appreciative of it. And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." But she's also like, what am I going to do with these things? And the kid, one of the bullies, is also like, well, what are you going to do with them? And she's like, I don't know. So she gives them to the bully. Well, Dahmer finds out and sees him. He's like, those weren't for you. And he's like, beat it, get out of here. Well, so then we see that later on, we see the kid go home, and then we see he goes into the house and sets everything down. And then we see Dahmer follow behind him creepily. And he actually goes in and steals the tadpoles he steals them back. And so then he takes them to the local creek where he got them from, and he we see him open and put motor oil in them. And I don't really know what the point of that was. I think we just are starting to see, because I don't think that it was, I know that there's a lot of correlation with serial killers and killing animals and different things like that. I don't think that's the intent here. I think the intent for this was to kind of just see what they would do. I think we're seeing the beginning of his experiments, and so well, whatever. And so then we also uh, later on, the next scene, we see him talking about, he's talking about roadkill with his dad, and then his dad's like, "Oh, taxidermy," and his mom, of course, is like freaking out, but his dad's like, "You know what? Yeah, it's different, it's odd, but he's showing an interest in something, and it's something that I want to, maybe help him out with." And so they do. So him and his dad, they go and they find roadkill and they stuff him. They cut him open and they look and see what's inside of him, and they cut him open. And I know that this has been kind of a, well, I think this is a thing where some people maybe tend to blame the father, but if your son or daughter, if they're really struggling with, opening up and showing who they are and being around people and whatever it may be, you probably, as long as it's not dangerous, you probably would and should encourage their interests. And taxidermy, it's not. I mean, it's kind of like in the Bates Motel. It's not a normal necessarily hobby. It's not even something that you might. It's maybe something you might not even like for your kids to be doing, but as long as they're doing it with the proper care and safety and that kind of thing, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's an odd hobby, sure, I'll grant you that, but it's not. I mean, it's better than killing people, and the animals are already dead. So, like I said, it is odd, but it's fine. So then we jump forward to his teenage years, and we see him getting a job as a meat cutter. and it just kind of shows him, it just is a little quick, we see him kind of getting the cuts down perfectly, and then we jump forward again. This show jumps forward and back a lot if you haven't noticed, but then we see him. Uh, he it's after the army and everything, and this once again I think is where he looks the most like Dahmer. I really do, and it's just very uh it's very uncanny because I mean Evan Peters definitely looks like Jeffrey Dahmer. They wouldn't have gotten him. At least I hope they wouldn't have gotten him if he didn't look like Dahmer. But this is really where I'm assuming that this is where the casting was like, okay, that's what I mean. Because if you look at pictures from this time period, this is where he has like the mustache and everything. If you look that time period photos and then look at the way that he's portrayed in um, the show, it's very similar to the way Jeffrey Dahmer looked. Um, and we see this as where we're introduced to his sweet, sweet, sweet grandmother. She's so sweet. She's so nice. She's just, she's the grandmother that everybody wants. She's so nice. Um, and we, so we see that we see the little beginnings of their relationship. And of course she's, like, oh, settle down with a nice woman. And he, in the best way of avoiding the "hey, I'm gay" subject, is just like, there's maybe. So then later we see him going to get his own alcohol and cigarettes, and he sees these two kids outside, and um, it's he uh he's like I said, he sees these two kids outside, and he's like, oh, your ID didn't work, and the kid's like, what do you want? And he's like, um, Boone's Farm. And I'm like, high school, yes. That's back when, it was like, it was cheap, it'd get you drunk, and it still tasted kind of like Kool-Aid, not really, like alcohol. So, yes, everybody wanted Boone's Farm back then. Well, so then he's like, well, why don't you guys come back to my place and we'll drink, Well, actually, he doesn't even really say that. He kind of just comes outside and he's like, come on, follow me. And then they get to um his apartment and everything, and he the kid tells Dahmer that he's 14 actually, because he tries to say that he's 21, and he's like, if you were 21, you wouldn't have needed me to get the booze for you. And he's like, okay, I'm 14. And you do see Dahmer kind of pause, but not enough to where he should have. Obviously, it does kind of, he's taken back by it. But like I said, ultimately he does decide to. He doesn't care. And also, the sad thing is that we find out that he is actually the brother of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's molestation victims. And he's like, well, if I'm such a bad guy, why are you here? And the kid just says, my family really needs the money. That's just so sad. I can't, children being in that situation, anybody for that matter being in that situation, and whether it's a serial killer or not, whether or not what's going to happen, but the fact that you're so desperate to help your family out, or whatever it is you need, that you are willing to sell your body for, that's horrible. And especially at that young of an age, to be that mature up here, but it's still so innocent. That's just broke my heart. Um, and so they're watching uh Star Wars later, and Dahmer, he's like, oh, I love Star Wars. The Emperor is so cool, and it's like, that's how he's the bad guy. He likes the Sith. Um, but so also this is where we see our first Dahmer attempted zombie. He drugs him and starts playing around in his brain, and he tries the acid thing, and the boy actually escapes, uh, and Glinda, the Niecy Nash's character, her and her daughter are like holding him, and they're like, oh my god, the cops! So they call the cops and everything, and the cops come back, and he says he can prove it. He says his boyfriend and all that. He says IDs in there, but the cops are they don't want to catch the gay, so they don't even do anything. They're just kind of like, okay, whatever. Well, then we hear the phone call um, from Niecy. Oh, and there's a body right there. There's another body right there. If they would have walked half a foot into the bathroom, they would, or the bedroom, they would have seen it. And at the end of the episode, we see Niecy Nash, or we hear Niecy Nash calling the police to find out, whatever happened. And she's like, because that appeared to be a child, and he's like, no, it's his boyfriend. We found the ID and blah blah blah, and she just keeps reiterating like it appeared to be a baby, a child. Why'd you guys release him? And she ultimately, I mean, you can still tell she's skeptical, but she's ultimately like, okay, I mean, I just wanted to, reiterate my concerns, with everything. And so, unfortunately, that's how Dahmer got that next victim, because the cops were so worried about. See, that's the thing too. I think that it's been said that they were worried about catching AIDS, but I think that it was just the fact that there was a homosexual couple. Well, presumably a homosexual couple, and they were, oh, well, we can't be around that. And that's just sad and absurd. I mean, do your due diligence. Come on. I don't care what. If there's a crime, especially a sexual crime like that, or even worse, with what had happened with the whole zombie thing, you need to do your due diligence. And the cops in this they just failed the whole area of Milwaukee. I mean, really. And I just I don't understand how they weren't, you know, given any serious consequence, because I mean, because of their fear and prejudice against the gay community, they let, unknowingly, of course, but still, they let Jeffrey Dahmer continue to have a horror house, and unfortunately, the whole town of Milwaukee suffered for it. But yeah, that's Dahmer episode 2. Once again, great. As the rest as episode 1 was. The series is incredible. The acting and stuff like that, it's all just great. As I said before, I'm not going to give my grading until the overall series is done, just because I think that's fair to grade it as a whole, not just separate incidents. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, I do love it. It's still great. Uh, I hope that you guys are enjoying it still, and I will see you guys with my next video. And take it easy, and I'll be uploading soon. Alrighty, bye.